I'd like to call on Commissioner Harvey for the invocation.
Pray with me, please. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you this morning to say thank you, recognize your grace, and praise you. We go to you in prayer to let you know that you're the Almighty God in our eyes and that you can help us in every way we need. We thank you, Lord, for everything you do for us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thanks, sir. Pledge allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, the Texas flag.
I honor the Texas flag, pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Take a seat, please. This time I'd like to ask if there's any public comment, anyone in the audience? Hearing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. I ask court to take action on that, please.
And motion to approve, Judge.
Second.
Any item on there?
Discussion, item 6.
Okay, 6.
Jeff, I think I know why you did this. Are you with me yet?
On 6,
Yeah.
Well, it's,
If you don't have a CDL driver, you call. We will go with our belly dumps to Delisi and get what you need. We'll help you.
I don't know what you're talking
No,
about.
6 has faith in
Oh, pardon me? I'm circling the wrong, it's item 5. No, it is item 4. Oh, there it is, right there, item 4.
This is not an auction.
Yeah, item number 4.
Well, that's Mark, not me.
Yeah.
That says precinct 4.
No, precinct 1.
Precinct 1.
Well, I guess I read the whole thing crazy.
224.
There it is. Mark,
Mark.
No, that was for the LEC project, and that'll be billed back to LEC.
oh, that needs to be corrected then. So this would be LEC.
That was all that, to build that road.
But he's got labor involved in it all. That's just to authorize that payment. Which,
Okay.
because he didn't.
Well, I just was looking at that. I thought it was precinct 4. I apologize, Commissioner Watts.
Well, it was a higher price.
It's yeah.
And your apologies, you're gonna get mine later for messing up last week, so.
But anyway, I just, if you need that, you know, what we'll help.
Yeah,
Instead of having to do, because that's pretty expensive. Okay, concrete job. We will help is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, no,
Okay, so that is gonna be paid.
that would, yeah, it'll be paid from precinct 1, and then I'll bill it back to the LEC project, and
You can do a markup on like the contractor would.
10% at least, I'm on it.
yeah, it's gonna be,
Well, you got labor.
yeah, the $70 million concrete, so, or pressure on it, so.
Well, you said it was that gold dust stabilizer.
That gold dust stabilizer, yeah.
Judge, on
Yes, sir.
the Bruckner invoice, could we delay that to, because I was trying to, my attachments and whatnot, wanting to pull Nancy, send me this other, but, had Deb print that off for me. I want to make sure this is not warranty work that,
You know, I wondered about us having that too. That was item,
well,
10.
I would like to check on that if we
Is that
could
one of the
delay.
tractors, Jeff?
Sir,
Is that one of the tractors?
yeah, 20 model.
It says Mack truck.
Well, most everything ought to be.
I really
10.
thought so too, and I just want to run that, talk to Gene before we do anything.
Okay, so it's acceptable you all remove item number 10. Commissioner Waller?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, Judge.
Okay. All right, anything else in there? Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Muller, a second by Commissioner Beecham to approve the consent agenda items with removal of item number 10 for further review by Commissioner Watts. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, item number 1 is review and approve the emergency and regular bills.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any comments or questions on the bills? Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries 5-0. Item 2 is discuss and consider take action to allow retail firework permit holders to sell fireworks in Wichita County only to the public and only during the period beginning Wednesday, May 20th, 2020, and ending at midnight on May 25th, 2020. Commissioner Watts, that was your item, sir.
Yes, this Tyler Rushing contacted me, and he has that pyrotechnics deal, and I told him that the part that may catch us, that may be a moot point, even if this is, the judge felt like it was non-essential service, and at this time, it doesn't matter, truthfully. Of course, it is green and it's good, and I want y'all's input on it, but he would like us to allow that to have some celebration, and I think what he does is not so much about people going and popping firecrackers. I guess that goes on Memorial Day, but I think they wanted to do a show or two. But that's what is he
Well,
was
that's
talking about.
That'd be a different thing,
Okay.
and Ms. Jeans might have to look that up. For him to do a fireworks show, it's different. He wants to sell fireworks. There are 5 optional dates under the law.
Well, and his request was for selling for allowing the sale of it, but I'm taking it that he does that other too. And I had a discussion with him that after I spoke with you, and found out about the non-essential, I don't know that it be going on, but.
As long as that disaster declaration is in place, I would say no. If I had to write something specific to exclude that, I would do that. My concern is it's green and it's great, and that part of it's not my worry. If there is a fire, then we've got to call out volunteer fire departments, depending on how large it gets, how many people you're bringing together that are not around. I would be highly concerned about public spread if that got introduced somewhere like that. I think that's an unnecessary risk.
We've never really done that, have we?
No, we've always had those 2 dates. We have suspended fireworks both in 4th of July and on New Year's Eve sales because of the dry conditions and the drought.
Judge, have they not done professional shows outside of that in the past, though?
Yeah, there was one actually, it was going to be a professional show
Yeah.
Out at Sykes Lake, and we had a New Year's Eve celebration.
I mean, it hadn't happened very often, but I think there's been a few times when we've done it outside.
Well,
that.
could y'all know who, now Tyler now is a pharmacist at Market Street, that's what he does, and then he bought that, I'm thinking, out on 79, that
He had a
fire.
band, didn't he? Is he the same one?
It's a guy that's always had a band, yes, and he says he does very little of
Yeah.
that now, he's so busy with his other, but
Yeah.
he's a very good singer, country and western singer, and popular fella, but a young guy, he's what,
Yeah.
32 years old maybe, or?
And his
pharmacy
name?
School, and
Tyler
Tyler Rushing. The Rushing, isn't Rushing Road out there?
Tanya Rushing, it's her son. He went to Iowa Park.
Yeah.
He plays basketball with Curtis. He does do the shows. He does a lot of them at Hawk Explosion. He does
Okay.
the fireworks.
That's who's doing that, okay.
He does.
Did he buy what Tammy and Mark Patterson had? Is
I
that
don't know
what?
if he bought it or not, but he does do the shows, and he has a container that he sets up there at the corner of 369 and 367. There at the
Oh,
Mustang
okay.
Park.
So this is not Russell's Fireworks?
No,
No,
no.
no, it's,
And if I'm
their
correct,
neighbors.
Russell passed away, correct?
Yes.
So is there
Now,
no more?
Tyler's dad lives
Russell's
down
going
past
trouble.
Russell
It is.
off 79 right there. If you cut on, what's that, 20, what's the one coming from the Jolly Truck Stop back to Dean to 79? There's 2 FM roads out there, and the cross FM roads, like one of them's 2523 and the other's 2533. And Tyler's dad lives right there off of 79 and that's where, but he was older than Landon, I remember. He's Curtis's age?
He's Curtis's
Okay.
age. Yes, they graduated together.
Judge, if we put
Maybe
a-
I should have him come and tell us more, but he understood certainly when I told him about the judge. He just wondered if we had some things, if we even talked about it, if it was a possibility, just open up more market for them, he thought, but that was the response from, but he wasn't overbearing about doing it or
So the
anything.
request is a retail sale.
I think that's what he ultimately wanted to do, retail sales.
Yeah.
But I, just because of the name, I'm like Lori, I thought, I didn't know he was doing, which specific ones he was doing, but I could tell that he was putting those
Yeah,
together.
he's done several of them. I think, did he do the 4th of July at Iowa Park last year?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, the lake.
Well, what do we do, Judge, on them shows like that? What do you do if you're gonna have a memorial deal for veterans, do it, and do they just get some kind of clearance from us or
Or if
something?
they're a license, there's a licensing process for the professional fireworks show.
And I think he is.
And they would do that, generally they do those inside city limits, i.e. like we swap off with Shepherd Air Force Base, Wichita Falls, back and forth, and we even had the fireworks during the drought because of the conditions they set up to do them. And I think that was downtown that was done, that the city gave the permit to do that. So it's permitted within city limits. We have
Is
to
that
see
how
if we
you-
have any permitting responsibility if it was outside the county, but generally there's not a good venue to do that in, and that's why the county
Right, yeah,
doesn't lend itself to
yeah.
that.
Lori, did you have to go to the city council? I mean, you were Booster Club president, or weren't you? Didn't you have to do that? Barry?
I didn't.
Yeah, and we did go to city council and get approved in Iowa Park for hawk explosion.
But the issue would be any fireworks, if we prove it, then any fireworks vendor could.
And the Burke Burnett City Council said we could do it over there because they were all about blowing up a hawk, so.
Well, they said, now I heard yesterday afternoon, and I was just surmising, but I didn't know what a graduation deal would entail, but my niece told me yesterday that they're looking at the middle of July and doing the prom the week before. Nancy, have you heard that?
And having a
Yeah,
ceremony.
Iowa Park prom is July 18th, and graduation is going to be either before or after.
So it wouldn't be in conjunction with that at all or anything, so. Maybe I should just have him come, Judge, if state his case a little more. He just well, you saw what I received that started it
I
all.
mean, the issue is sale or no sale, that's,
Yeah, that's what he's really asking for, I
Yeah.
think, because he's go to other channels for the
because it would be
professional
the
league.
same thing that allowed, that would allow all fireworks to do. And quite frankly, I think it's out as long as we are under these conditions, it's non-essential. Now, there's an effort to reopen things, and in the hours of calls I've had, nobody has brought up fireworks sales.
Well, they weren't fireworks vendors.
Good point. Well, we traditionally, it's been a 4th of July and a New Year's
Yeah.
deal, and that's the only two windows.
And I'm gonna say it's much more likely that this will be off by, or greatly reduced. The effort of everything is to work towards getting non-essential businesses open. And under the current plan, depending on how long those steps go, but first of all, the governor's gotta give us the room to do this. And I still haven't figured out what his phrase of retail to the curb.
Retail to go.
Yeah. How do you buy a couch? I wouldn't buy a couch without sitting in it. So-
Well, I'd hate to work at that furniture store and bring 4 or 5 couches out for you to sit on.
Yeah, because if my wife was looking, she might change her mind.
But I
my
mean, they do that. Is it not, you're not able to do it under the tent scenarios that a lot of these guys do?
That would be, Hamilton Fines always had their dent and damage sale under a tent.
It's the same thing as going to the store.
Inside an enclosure, and I'd say, no.
We just gotta get this cleaned up and get going.
I mean, I would is, if we're gonna do that, we've already done. This ought to be the 100 most stupid things government has ever done, because he's written in this, as a book for this. You know, I spent a part of the weekend with tennis people, talking about, and what's been done in other cities, and I think they've got a reasonable case, we ought to look at tennis. And then I threw in pickleball to them. And we don't have any outdoor pickleball courts that I'm aware of, nor do we have outdoor racquetball courts, but it would be the same kind of things.
You can't have an outdoor racquetball court, you gotta have a ceiling. You don't, you just gotta have walls.
I used to have a bunch.
When I used to play, I needed a ceiling.
I did too.
Yeah, because that gives you another. Okay, try no basketball picture. That's the one, you know, it's one thing to run around that fine box.
Yeah.
The other deal could be,
I couldn't play racquetball without a back wall. That's my kill shot.
Either.
The dive's right in the corner.
but Condor, you'd love pickleball, because you could literally, pickleball is half the size of a tennis court. You could probably spread it completely across it.
Now, Tracy,
I never even
you're
heard
just
of pickleball.
thinking that,
I'm just thinking we are so far off our agenda item.
Yeah.
Oh, I know,
Put
yeah.
you all back on.
Okay,
So,
we'll
back
get there.
around.
All right, yes,
We'll
ma'am.
right back there for you, we'll figure something out.
Please, now we've won.
So when you
Keep up with y'all.
when you blow up a pickleball with fireworks,
Yeah,
I might go see,
support
I might go see that.
I'm trying to get back
Is
ready.
that a motion?
Judge,
Counselor's right, but I wanted to say what I did before I told you we need to get back on the subject. Now, let's, okay, we can take action today, or not action, there's still some time, but if we're gonna do anything, it's kind of a risky thing, because I don't see this being over with personally.
well,
It's
can,
gonna depend on
And this
COVID, and it's gonna depend on drought condition. I mean, there's lots of different things that can happen between now and then.
so could we not change the verbiage of the motion to say we would approve this as long as we're not still under restrictions from our governor and that the drought conditions or the conditions will allow?
Well,
can we change it up to, I mean, can you step in there 2 weeks ahead of time? And I guess this inventory just moves on to 4th of July if you're setting on.
yeah, that's what.
I don't know how much time he needs to order his stuff to get it in.
No fireworks from
July, anyway.
Well, that's
I just,
true.
my concern is we open this holiday, they'll be wanting the other 5, and we'll be putting our volunteers in more work, more problems throughout the year.
They actually charge an extra 2 cents sales tax, which not a fire department I know of has ever seen that money.
Not a dime.
No, that I know of, and I've looked at that balance.
That's on fireworks yet?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
yeah, and it sits in a little slush fund down at the state. It's generally $1 million a year going into that. And the year we had banned them, they only brought in $750,000. But none of it has fed back. That ought to be in that law that divides up and goes to the counties as a percentage of that sale, because that's where the fires had to be fought. But they
Should
use
go
it.
directly to the counties that are sold.
No, we want Houston's money because concrete don't burn. We need the rural communities needs the money.
This is one of those deals, Judge, and we get into it every time we have this discussion. This is one of those areas where county government has all the responsibility and none of the decision, basically, is what we're talking about, or very little of the decision. But we do have all the responsibility of keeping the volunteer fire department going and all the other things, so that's the deal.
You asked about modifications. What I suggest you do is you make a motion to take a vote on it to allow it, realizing that it's not allowable as long as a disaster declaration from the cities don't allow it internally unless it's a permitted thing. The county is the one that would be, and as long as we are still treating people under code, my word does not have a limit to it, and it would say in effect it'd be a non-essential business. So,
I think that's almost the perfect motion right there.
I'll make that motion,
May
Judge.
I, before you make the motion, are you all also going to prohibit or restrict the sale or use of restricted fireworks, which are defined as skyrockets with sticks and missiles with fins, which is a federal
Do we
regulation?
normally, me and Nancy
We had
talked
always
about
done
it,
that.
do we do that on the other ones too? Do we,
Yes.
We do that during the drought.
oh, not on the non-drought, we allowed it in 4th of
and
July?
that driven by the Keach Byram index has to be at a certain level.
It says if you all choose to adopt an order, you may prohibit or restrict the sale or use of restricted fireworks, and that's the skyrockets with sticks and missiles with fins, if you intend to do that. If you don't intend to do that, doesn't make any difference to you.
We intend to do that.
Well, I thought the state had,
I did
I thought that was out, that they couldn't even get them
So
anymore.
it's
Now, I
independent.
that was my understanding.
I'm just telling you whatever I did when I got the email about this.
Would that not be our motion, though? It would it not?
I would think, I mean, they're the highly volatile
Yeah.
ones, and that's.
Well, when you
like what
find bottle
Marcus
rockets on top of the storage tanks on 77 Ranch Road, that's a problem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It was.
Yes, it was.
okay, well, we'll restrict those volatile ones.
The sale or use of
The restricted
fireworks.
category.
Yes.
The restricted sale
Restricted
of
sale.
restricted fireworks.
Yes,
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think we've always pretty well done
Okay.
that in the
Mr.
past.
Chairman.
because that's where your trouble comes from.
Yes.
Sure. That makes somebody several hundred yards over there susceptible. And that's always been the problem.
Well, and quite frankly, I agree with Commissioner Beecham. We've got 2 times a year that burden is carried by volunteer fire departments, and I personally think that's enough.
We ought to have our own fee on there. They just come get a
Permit.
sale permit from the county. They take it out and it goes into the fire department fund.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing that would prohibit that, would there?
We don't have the authority.
Probably.
It's not what we can't do, it's only what we can do.
We can
And
get,
this is one of the few times that you all can not allow. The other times that you're talking about is mandated by the state, and it will be allowed that you can have, the restricted fireworks and then the drought stuff. But this is optional for y'all. This is
But-
entirely up to y'all.
But the order wouldn't give us any ability to do special permits in the county for
No.
such.
It's just-
and the treasurer could collect it for us, so that wouldn't be a problem. I don't know, do we need to have him come and tell us exactly what he's got on his mind? I mean,
It's
would
fine
that-
with me,
I mean, would
without
that,
anything.
to me, that would kind of clear some of this up.
Yeah.
At least a representative from the rural chiefs, so we can hear what their thoughts are.
Yeah, I'd like to get their feedback, I think it's important.
We'll just set that up. I'll rescind my motion and we'll just wait
I think
and.
that,
Yeah,
Yeah,
second year, so.
Okay.
just reschedule it.
So
All right.
Table.
Okay, you're gonna make contact with him?
Yes, sir.
Leaders on, that's one of the chiefs are all in work. Come in. Well, we don't want all of them, we want to call in and the same thing with him, Robert.
Only with a mask.
Okay, update on law enforcement's project.
Well, we got a couple of milestones this last week. All the RTU rooftop units were all installed, so building looks like it has air conditioning and everything now. It's all up on top. They did close the west wall, so the west side, all the support building side, kitchen, etc., is now weathered in. So big milestone moments. Parking lots going in, a lot of concrete pour. We've had great weather, so things are moving along. Really about it.
Okay.
Is irrigation done in the parking lot?
Irrigation, we had a meeting this past week to discuss changes on the landscaping. So some of the irrigation we are not going to be required to put in. We're going with xeriscape, rock, landscape on a lot of it to reduce the number of sprinkler heads and need for watering. So, but everywhere that there's plumbing needed under the concrete, it's there. That's one of the reasons we took action a couple of weeks ago to put the AT&T pipe in.
And the electrical's also in.
Yeah, everything that's required to be under the concrete's under the concrete.
Considering where we've been the last 30 days, I think it's amazing that we're still on track. That's quite a,
They had a reduction in force for just, what, 2-3 days, Mark? And then they got them all back.
No, they haven't slowed down one bit.
you know,
They're going,
So you gave us a report one Monday that you were concerned about getting all the workers back, that says it was due to the virus deal.
well, we were in an interim problem where we had a contractor that showed up that was running a fever and he come from out of town and was symptomatic, so they removed him from the work site and shut down that crew for the day. But since, we haven't had any shutdown.
there are a
He
lot
tested negative and everything's fine.
of projects and a lot of industries shut down right now. I mean,
Yeah,
That's
well-
amazing that.
We've got 2 EMTs on site. Everybody that enters the site, every time they enter, gets checked. So doing everything we can to mitigate the possibility of spread, so. Including additional hand wash stations, trying to get masks for everybody right now.
You know, when you talk about the mask, that's a common thing in many of the go-forward orders that communities are talking about is 100% masking. Unless you have a doctor's firm that's legitimately gotten this, okay.
Trying to kill me.
Where would you go get a mask today if you wanted one?
Make one at home.
Make them at home. There's no elastic to be had right now, that's
I
the
know.
problem. I've got a lot of people that have volunteered to make them, but no elastic.
I got some
You
in the
do?
mail Saturday.
That's smart.
You don't need elastic.
Anything covering your nose and your mouth.
It's true.
that-
Well, if you're getting people to make them for free, they don't want to sew off the.
You have to sew anything.
Well, Shepherd's produced over
I'll show you.
4,000.
Might have a t-shirt.
Well, they showed on the
Sure,
internet that
great.
you can slice one of those bungee cords and there's like 40 or 50 plastic strands in
Oh.
there.
And it's, they're
You cut the bottom of a t-shirt off.
They're not good.
fall apart.
This lady showed putting on her husband's t-shirt, flipping around, and she got her face, and it's on
Yeah.
Facebook.
I watched one just yesterday. Debbie showed me a lady just cut the sleeve off of a t-shirt and then cut the bottom of the t-shirt and it, kind of rolls up. Tighten a knot, put it back there, put that nail on there, put it over ears.
That'd be the right
Had to-
material, can't be just cotton.
Well, they put a coffee filter inside.
Saying,
That's not what the orders have said. All of them, none of them,
Just cover.
other than the certain specified ones, will stop the incoming. It's the exporting of liquids when you sneeze or cough.
It controls it.
So that's really what those orders are after. They're trying.
Well, there's a lot of people wearing bandanas,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
and I wouldn't advise walking in a liquor store with one of those on, though, because people are still a little antsy.
Bank.
Well, as a very renowned attorney said last week, what did the robber look like? Well, I don't know, he had a mask. So, all right, anything else on the law enforcement center? Okay, anyone in the audience, any comments? Okay, Commissioner Beecham,
I have nothing, Judge.
Commissioner Harvey?
Working diligently, we have completed the milling up of Muller Road. Then we went to Bridgetown Road. We're currently on Clara Church Road. And when we finish that, we're gonna move over and help Brother Mahler in Precinct 3. He's been over there helping us. And Jeff, I want to give a shout out to Dale, your employee that comes from Precinct 4. Really, really a good help. I mean, the guy was just very knowledgeable and the work ethic was really good. So thank you for that.
He took a real interest in learning about that machine.
He did good, and he taught Sam and Jimmy. And there's a consumable part on that machine that I wasn't aware of that we thought was going to be like $12 a piece, Judge, but they came in at $434, something like that. We probably went through a couple of hundred of them at $4.50 a piece.
It's the T.
It's the actual, it's a carbide tip that goes on there, and it wears, and you've got to change it before it gets into the base deal. So,
They change out.
yeah,
They change out pretty good.
they do. They stick a little fork on there. It's easy to change out, but after each mile, we crawl up underneath there and take the drum off, put all our safety stuff in place, and we change out the ones that are getting close to getting into the base metal. And I just wasn't aware of that in the beginning, but now I am. They're the same tips that go on our zipper. We have a problem on Moeller Road. There is apparently underground water. We have about a 50-foot piece of that road that when you drive across it in my pickup, it's like you're driving across a sponge. We sank the machine in it. It just couldn't. It's about 50 feet long. So Donald, Sam, and I talked, and once we get through milling everything up, we're gonna have to dig that out, and we're gonna have to put some powdered cement or something like that in there, mix it with our zipper, and try to get that. Right now, you can take a probe, just a 1/2-inch rod, and stick it in the ground about 6 foot. It's soft.
Now, Lee, I saw, and Barry, you may remember this, but when you come in on the north side of the football stadium at Iowa Park, when we tore up that road and we redid the road, which takes you to our field house on the west side of the football field, when they came in and did that road, we hit the same problem in the center of that road, and it was just a mud hole. It was, and groundwater came up. The school battles that anyway. We have sump pumps in our basement at the high school up on the hill. So
That's salt water pretty well.
yes,
Yeah.
and so they came in there and put a tremendous amount of lime, and they worked it in. They come back, put more, they worked it in, and that thing got harder, and it's never been an issue. To my knowledge, it's stood up and made a
It's
good
basically
road
the same
and parking lot.
process. We're just gonna use Portland cement instead of lime. Same exact process.
We've got at least 2 places on roads exactly like what you're talking about. We've thought of.
It's about 50 feet long.
Yeah.
And it is unbelievably soft
It's an
on a
old
regular
spring,
pickup.
Is what the old timers tell me. There's supposed to be a freshwater spring, but that meant the high school
But
salt.
they do what,
Yeah.
Judge?
I was gonna say, whether just crushed stone kind of allowing a Flint drain to any portion of that would just sink.
It's so deep.
Well,
I mean, it's just so
problem,
deep.
You don't have a place to take it.
Yeah.
You could drain it off with a tile. You could tile it and drain it, but you gotta have a place to go with it.
You
And
know,
it could be salty. You don't ever know.
I've seen that, so you move from the football stadium, you move due south,
Yeah,
back
landfill.
and to the landfill, and we'll get down 20, 25 foot, and you've never seen a flowing river like that in your life. And we have put in French drain down that low around that bed of that liner.
I built the waterways across that place from behind that house back down through that draw, and we hit it several times down through there. And we couldn't grow grass on the waterway because of the salt content. It just had big bare spots. It's a problem. But we find it a couple, 3 places out in the precinct. Just
Well, we're gonna continue milling and get the milling machine off rent. As soon as we finish precinct 3, we're ready to turn it in. We do need to send 50 brand new tips back in with the machine, or they're gonna charge us for it. I mean, either way, I mean,
I
we're
think
gonna
Jerry
have to pay for
ordered
it.
those.
I ordered 100, Jerry ordered 100, and we had 100.
So we used them?
Yes.
So we'll have to have a set to go.
Yes.
back with it. Okay.
So-
I bet you'll pay less for them than, do they put them on, or are we supposed to replace them before we send it back?
Now, they sent the machine with a bucket that had 50 of them in it.
So you send that back.
So we just replenish their bucket and send it back. We have to have all the teeth changed on the drum and they're 50 in the bucket
Okay.
when they get it back. 180, is that right? 180?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Now, Larry, we want on that schedule, when you
14.
shoot what you're milling, we want to get in there and work however we have to work to do our 2 little jags.
You know, it's
Well-
worked well because we've teamed up and sent our grader and guys over there to help them get ready, and we're getting a lot more done because we've got
Absolutely.
everybody on site. And
Well, you just have to have a certain amount of people to do a job like that. So, but we will continue, once we get everything done, we drive on those roads a little bit, find our little soft spots, get them fixed, and when we chip seal, we'll chip seal 1, 2, 3, and 4 together.
Yeah.
You know, and just make a big push through the county. But it'll be after it gets nice and hot.
You have to loan precinct 4 some oil.
Well, we will if we have
Well,
to.
mine's little bitty, I mean,
Yeah.
I got that 2 little jags.
Horseshoe
I
Lake
just need to
Road.
Cover them
Or
up.
Horseshoe Lake.
Yeah, Horseshoe Lake and that jag of Peterson.
Anything else, Commissioner?
No, that's about all we're doing is that road project.
Commissioner
Oh,
Wallace?
just working with precinct, getting that milling done. We're glad to see it done and getting things ready for the summer. These have been really interesting times, as you know, Judge, over the last few weeks of trying to keep moving forward, and our road crews, for the most part, I know Mark had a little flare up over there with his, but they've been moving forward. They've been on duty every day, and we can't thank them enough for carrying on and doing what needs to be done out there, because there's work to be done for sure. We had a little deal Saturday I'll talk about just for a minute, because I think it says something about where we are. Our Wichita County Farm Bureau Board had a hamburger feed Saturday over at our new office on Kell, and it was just amazing to see how many people showed up. We were completely compliant to gloves, masks, distancing, drive-up deal. Nobody got out, nobody congregated, but we had a tremendous response cooking hamburgers on Saturday, and people coming by to get them. People are ready to go do something, I tell you, and we've just got to get this thing rolling again and get this economy going. But it is there. We're going to do the same thing in Owl Park on Friday, as a matter of fact, at noon. So just anybody wants to come by and have a hamburger. But just something to say thanks to the community, and hey, you know, we're trying to get something going. And I think the point in this, the most important point is, you can do those kind of things within the guidelines. And you can be in compliance and still make things happen. And I think that's what we're going to be needing to do the next 30 days. We're going to find ways to get this economy going while still taking the protection that we need and not have another flare up of this stuff. And the good news is it can be done. It takes a little innovation and a little planning, but it can be done. And I think we've got the people in this part of the country that will step up to the plate and make it happen. So let's don't just throw in the towel and say all is lost. Let's get this thing going, but let's do it safely. We don't need another flare up. It can be done.
Okay. Commissioner Watts?
I was in San Angelo Saturday and Sunday, and I was amazed at the different sites down there. Boys, the oil field does not look good, and they are more barren yards than you can only imagine. Oil $10 a barrel this morning.
What?
So,
Yeah.
oil $10 a barrel this morning.
West Texas crude, $11.
So it's just, you know,
Oh,
and,
my
and you're a
word.
producer and you're probably taking 7 for it to ship it. So
It's a wreck.
it's a wreck, and these guys have they've not sent their employees home. They're not coming back. They're gonna be somebody new show up in that yard next time it goes around, because they're gone.
They're
And
liquidating.
The,
So,
everything is liquidated.
Yeah.
These sales, Ritchie Brothers, if you've been keeping up with that, you can't imagine the oil field that's come into that auctions and trying to get dispersed. They said Odessa, Midland is a ghost town. And I noticed we talked to quite a few boys that had moved from Odessa. They were staying where we stayed and working a big pipelines coming through south of El Dorado there. And there were a lot of welders moving down out of the oil field there to work on that pipeline. And it's just disheartening, it really is. But I noticed that I talked to every store I got gas at, I asked them, and their volume, their trade was low. They just hadn't seen people. I did run into 2 older fellas going to a golf tournament. I asked them about their rules. They said, Judge, they are required, everybody required to be on the court has to be wearing a mask. They didn't have the distancing rule, but everyone had to have a mask on. So,
Technically, they have the distancing rules in the government. They have 6 foot, which is what we went to.
and so that was just interesting to see that country, and people are really pulled back, and a lot of people, they're just, you would think maybe more rural, we wouldn't have seen the precaution that we saw, but there was precaution going everywhere, and all as far south as we went, and just up out of Del Rio there, it was all the way back to San Angelo, those people paying attention. But I'm really concerned about the oil field, because there's guys that don't matter what the essential, non-essential, they're not going back to work. So
I've got several pieces on my yard at the farm that have been brought in last week, just people looking for a place to park it for a while. They don't know where to go, don't know what to do, it's gonna be for sale. Here's another point, Judge, and I'll shut up. You gotta remember, guys, we're months away from a legislative session. There'll be bills filed this fall. It is not gonna be pretty in Austin, Texas, with $11 oil when we get to legislative session. You talk about tough times. We thrive on that as a way to finance this stuff. This is not gonna be a fun go-round. So, just get ready.
Judge, could you run down some of the changes that you put out on the restrictions?
Okay. Probably the largest change had to do with realtors. After they were put on the list as an essential business, then we had to rethink how we were doing them. And so now they all agree, they would rather they do business electronically, but showing houses, getting people to buy a home without going inside of it was a real drawback. So what we allow now is the realtor can show a house. They have to go in and wipe down the common services. They can bring the realtor and up to 5 total people in the house. And the people everybody has to be masked and gloved. And then the realtor, after everybody leaves, has to wipe down the commonly touched doorknobs, the light switches, those kind of things, to do that. And then some of the title companies can do electronic closing, some can't. However they do it with minimal amount of people being, present.
Carrie closes on her house. She was told to go to the title company, sit in the parking lot. Someone would come out, bring her the papers. She'd say, don't ever get out of your car. And that's how they're doing their closing Monday.
Yeah, no, the cooperation is part of what led us to thank him. Also, when it was finally, they were listed as an essential business under the finance area, then that gave us more room. And I have to say they were being very patient, understanding with it. I didn't get didn't get any real kickback. Just said, could you review this after it became listed in version 2, I believe is the one that was finally.
Did Mike Dietrich call you?
I called him.
Okay.
I talked to Mike and to DM. And at any rate, they're very happy with what we have given them to work with now. And then the other thing was the golf courses, we looked at that. It's once again, I think the top 100 stupid things government did during this would have to be when we talk about social distancing, but then the golfers being 50 foot apart. It's so 6 foot, and we do that, which is now, I spent pretty fair amount of time over the weekend talking with some of the tennis people and what that is doing to them. And so I'm working on today, when we're finished here, a set of rules to deal with allowing outdoor tennis or pickleball or racquetball, where there would be a controlled entrance. In other words, there would be somebody monitoring the court, you could go on and play tennis. The way the tennis courts seem to be set up in the public tennis facilities, you have fences around 2 courts. They're side by side. Country Club has a fence between every court. You got a lot of distance in those dimensions. You could have, most of the cities are allowing up to 4 players at a time on the court. You have to bring your own stuff to sit on, bring in your own drinks. Nobody shares anything. You don't sit together. When you switch sides on the court, one comes off this way and one comes off, goes around that way, so they're not next to each other. The pro shops would not be open. They can't do sales. They can book people by appointment to play, and there has to be somebody monitoring that. So if the city wants to open their courts or school, I can talk to Dr. Shipley about Midwestern, how they want to handle it, but somebody has to be there to monitor it. They have to provide or bring sanitary wipes to wipe their hands off, wipe off what they touch, and they leave, that kind of thing. We need to, as Commissioner Wallace said, we need to get people out and doing things. And, we've got, tennis has always been big in Wichita Falls. And we have a lot of kids that are on tennis scholarships to colleges, and obviously the colleges.
We have a couple from Burke Burnett, went to college full rides on tennis.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a thing, and it covers the full age deal, and like I say, I'm not aware, I understand there may be an outdoor court, pickleball court at Jefferson School. I know they play up there, but I don't know whether it's indoor or outdoor.
You told us that you were putting together a plan to open up our non-essential businesses, probably in some stages of stuff.
Yes.
How far along on the plan are you and I guess some of the other community?
I just want to call for this turnaround task force.
Okay.
Try to start implementing. Because, okay, quite frankly, we have to change our order for them to change their order. We can't be less stringent than we are. But the idea will be how to do that. I don't quite see how the governor's term is neat, but application of telling businesses that are non-essential, that are closed now, can open if they sell products. The big stores, what we call the box stores, they have big marketing people. They have this stuff. They can do it online, but they're kind of open. I had heard that Hamilton Bryan could sell appliances, but not furniture, but that was a myth. I understand this whole store's open, you can buy, because that would be like if we had allowed Walmart to stay open, we told them to tape off everything except groceries and pharmacy or something like that.
Yeah.
So, the multi-item stores have had an advantage in this. The discussions on opening, and the governor's gonna have to give us the room to do it. But, it would be, you would limit the number of people in the store, you would have sanitizer available when they come in, when they go out, you monitor them, try to keep them.
We would still be responsible, but we would be open. That's what you're saying. If we have responsible people who change their behavior and really focus on it, then we can open up whenever we get the permission from the governor.
Yeah.
But once we get that permission, we still need to practice the things that we're doing now to nip it in the bud.
Well, and that's where I see this thing it seems to be a common theme to some sort of masking. And it can be everything from a bandana, and we're gonna use Lori to test out all of these.
I got one of them glow-in-the-dark Jason masks from Halloween. I wonder if that'll work.
Judge, is there any timeline? Is May 1st gonna be something that's gonna change? Do you have any indication?
Well, the governor was supposed to have some stuff out today. He threw out a number of different dates that they would do, but he has this large strategic team headed up by Mr. Huffines, who is an Austin banker, and you got everybody that's a who's who in business on there. Ross Perot Jr., the Attorney General's on this team, the comptroller, I just don't see any John Smiths on there.
There's not many people on that team that are not drawing a paycheck. That's what kind of concerns me.
Yeah, I just said there weren't any John Smiths on there.
Yeah.
Or John Q. Publics on there.
Yeah, you know, it's real easy to sit there and make up rules when you're, you know, your
Yep.
goat's not being gored. But
That's
if
right.
you're a small business owner out there and you've been shut down, and all of a sudden all your end of the month bills are coming due next week,
You
that's a
know it's
whole
real.
different
You
perspective.
know what that phone call's gonna look like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what concerns me is that.
I think his next word's due on the 27th.
Yeah.
Well, now I thought retail to go was beginning April 24th.
Yeah.
That's what I
Friday.
wrote down.
Yeah, Friday,
Yes, sir.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever that means.
Whatever that
Yeah,
is.
that's,
And his order, technically, what he says in there, any local orders in conflict with this are vacated. So I don't think we need to write an order with that superseding it, but,
did you get Tommy's message, Jim?
and the other thing is on Mayor Saniano's group, he has put in the Chamber of Commerce for getting feedback from businesses. Got a really good thing back from the Texas Restaurant Association, that Scott Plowman and his wife are on that committee, and they've gotten that. Scott's a past chairman of the North Texas or Wichita Falls area.
Oh,
Restaurant
my word.
Association.
Not good.
So-
Our tax assessor collector sent out a text that he picked up the mail. There were 21 bankruptcies.
Guys, that's sad.
That's sad. That's scary.
And, you know, y'all remember, I remember my grandpa talking about this, and I remember Brent Catlin and his dad interjecting, and what that 80s oil field market was. This is worse. This is worse.
And
I remember $12 oil, that's
At
it.
higher cost.
Absolutely. That's
We-
that's the kicker.
I'm just gravely concerned we've not seen the,
And what happens is a bunch of those bills don't get paid and it snowballs down the way.
I think we're gonna see property tax payments. I didn't get a chance to read the article this morning. I started reading through and stuff about 6:30, and I didn't get back to the paper. I was trying to keep up with emails. It talked about tax increases. Did anybody read that article this morning?
I do.
Okay. You know, we're gonna have a budget work session where we're gonna lay out our strategy to deal with, you know, the property values that were sent out based on January are not the same values in April, May, and June that we're gonna see
That's true.
in reality.
Well, Judge, I've had a lot of phone calls from people who think that the commissioner's court has anything to do with their property value. And I listen to them, but I explain to them that how it works. But, you know, there's a guy in Burnett, lives on a regular, everyday street, not really nice home, but okay home, it's a spec home, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, little brick house. It went up $30,000. And he says, Lee, haven't done anything, haven't changed anything. And that's several phone calls like that. Mine personally, my house went up $6,000, and I don't know why, but haven't done anything.
what
It's in
was
worse
it
shape.
last year, Lee? What did it was a bump last year as well.
It was, but it wasn't $6,000. And so, but there's several that are $30,000. 2 called, they were $60,000.
Wow.
I
10% on a homestead is the maximum. They might value it more. I don't know how this works exactly.
told them to go to the board.
Well, they have to go to the cap, Judge.
That's what,
I mean, they can value it more, but they're only getting,
They only give a 10% increase on a homestead.
well, everybody that called me that said, what are you doing? You know, they think it's us, and they think we have control of it, which we have nothing to do with it. So I tell them, look, in your tax statement, there was a protest sheet. I said, fill it out and send it in. And let them explain to you how your property went up $60,000 in value, or $30,000.
Well, mine went up 11, so I went over to the
Appraisal district.
appraisal district, yeah, thank you, brain's not working. Went over to appraisal district and sat with them for a couple of hours and looked through my neighborhood and the reasoning why. And
It's comps.
I don't like it, but
It's
the
comp
math worked
sales.
out. There was the comp sales in that area, so.
That's the
when we had
number
a
one driver
booming-
is comp sales.
A booming real estate market back in January and before, that's where it's all
Well,
driven.
that was the advice that I gave those people, was to fill that out and go to the board and just see what's going on.
Well, I didn't see 11,000 growth in my house, for sure.
But what's hard to put into this, and what the bureaucrats will say to you is, well, this was last year's value that you're paying for. Well, last year's value and this year's value, now, a year from now, you can say, wow, they took my property down $70,000, which is not as likely to happen, because you
Not
also
as
have this
likely.
little ladder in here from the comptroller's office that demands that you appraise between 95 and 105% of the value of the property.
Market value, is it
Yeah.
market value or
Which could drastically
hurt you?
if they're not in compliance. Because then the state wants their money back.
Yes.
And they penalize school districts for that.
My house was up considerably, but I wouldn't sell it for what it's priced for.
Oh, I'd sell mine for what it's priced for, with a heartbeat. You want it?
Well, I'm telling you,
Not
Lee, you'd be surprised though, you know, that market's still hot and don't be throwing the sign up before you know where you're going, because there's plenty of traders out there
I'm
that,
going from scratch on Farm to Market Road 369. That's where I'm building a house where I'm gonna die.
Camper trailer.
yeah.
You gotta bring them inside that shop.
Exactly.
I've got a
Put me in a
Winnebago,
man
I'll
cave.
lease you.
No, we've all had those calls, but.
Yeah.
Like,
I've been getting a lot.
but,
Okay, anything else? I'm sorry, we're finished on that, but yeah, people need to call in the appraisal district, and before you get mad, sit down with them.
Yeah. But comp sales is the big driver. It really is.
But it is.
People think it's
the odd
improvements
sequencing
and-
of how it falls. Anything else, Commissioner?
No.
All right. I did mention you all about reviewing the tennis and that. Sir, on unipology, it was in the minutes, it was a 5-0 vote, and we did award that. But then we did the deal of allowing the protest, and I want to thank Ms. Jennings for doing a lot of research, and we both came to, you throw this carrot out here and say, if the low bidder is not accepted, they have to be notified. And after that, the law is silent.
Doesn't tell you how to handle it.
It doesn't give the governing body a way to handle it. But, so that may be a legislative item to work on. How is that supposed to be handled? What does that? Does that mean you can't award a bid until you've given the low bidder a chance to come in? You must consider, that. It's just silent.
Well, Judge, I'm glad you did. Because if we would have done our due diligence a little bit better up front, if the people were asked those questions, and we could have got all that stuff we probably would have awarded it to the other guy, the low bid, because of the assembly of the stuff and the misinterpretation of the armchairs was the right part number, but just the wrong description. And if we'd have got all that out on the table before we chose, we probably would have went with the low bid because it was less work for us all the way around.
But anyhow, it's done. And the nice thing was, I called and talked to, I had a thing to call Mike Wilson at Wilson Office Supply. I thought, oh, this is not gonna be good. Mike was a true gentleman. He said, we will pay more attention the next time we fill stuff out and we look at it. We'll ask the questions before the bid's due, get clarification and do that. He said, we probably didn't do enough of that. He said, I also understand there was a question about seal. He said, I'm gonna have fun with you guys. Next time I send you a seal, it's gonna be
Jeff opens it up, we don't have to worry about it.
I told him, I said, precinct 4 commissioner has always been the official opener, and so, at any rate, so Jeff had better bring you.
Chainsaw.
hermetically sealed in a mayonnaise jar on fucking Michael's front porch.
Yeah, so, at any rate, the other thing is, we're moving through these. I will keep you all informed. and share with you what's going on in these different planning meetings. I thought we were gonna have those, the city's team on Wednesdays at 1:30, and now we've got it at 1:30 today.
Does the city's team include their city councilman?
Yeah, there's 2 city councilmen on there. Their attorney,
No, but just somebody.
no, less than a quorum.
Yeah.
So it's the mayor and 2, Jeff Browning and Michael Smith on there. And so, Mr. Browning is an independent business owner. I think that's real good to have him on there. Then on the meetings that I call for the county on Mondays and Wednesdays, Mondays and Thursdays at 4, includes any of the mayors and the city administrator or city manager on those. Plus Shepherd Air Force Base, both colonels, the health district, Ms. Jennings,
MSU,
yeah.
hospitals.
And then I've added Phyllis Cowling. I thought she was on there originally from Yana Regional, and I'm trying to get Rebecca McCain out of Electric, as we talked about hospital stuff. Chief Perlman and his team in the virtual EOC submitted a bunch of information to Lou Kreider over the weekend, and she has a proposed
Chief who?
Perlman, Wichita Falls.
Yeah.
Good guy.
I heard he was.
Experience in dealing with disaster stuff. His credentials are pretty doggone good.
The fireman that I talked to think he's
Yeah,
really smart.
What I've
Really smart.
yeah. I got tickled. He was brand new here. He went through the parade, the City Lights Parade.
Mhm.
Jumped off the vehicle, jumped up on the grandstand, he and his wife, and we had a really good time. Just,
Oh, okay.
you know, so.
Even though he's a Yankee, he seems to be fitting in pretty good.
Yeah. Right. Okay, we're gonna hope to see more guidance out of the governor's office and hopefully more latitude that we can do things here that work for Wichita County and cities within that border to do that. But I'll share those documents with you all and so you can kind of keep in step and maybe have some suggestions on what to do. Anything else? Okay, it's 11:05 and we're adjourned. There will not be a meeting Friday.